If you're elected and the issue of immigration comes up, what points are you going to make to your caucus?
Well, first of all, and everybody says it but wasn't done before, you've got to close the borders. Okay? We need immigrants. There's no question we need immigrants just like we have every other time in our country. We need immigrants on farms. We need immigrants in certain high-skilled industries. We need immigrants in the service sector. On the other hand, if you have to pick between people who are sneaking across the border or people who are vetted, why wouldn't you pick people who are vetted? There are stories right now about welfare benefits in the United States being advertised south of the border. Okay, to me, when you look at that next 500,000, million, 2 million people coming to America, I want people who have jobs lined up, people who have somebody vouching for them, people who have gone through a background check insofar as you can do it. Right now we're not doing that. We could get people who are terrorists, but we're also getting people who may be coming here to get on the welfare system, and that's just a total disaster. And we can, this is not a partisan issue, because just as Barack Obama is not sufficiently enforcing these laws, George Bush didn't enforce them before that, but it's going to have to take Congress to stand up and say, hey, what's going on here? Our country will be sunk.
For 10 million, for the 10 or 11 million people who are not here legally, should there be a path to citizenship?
I don't believe in amnesty. I don't believe in amnesty, because what you're doing by doing that is you're setting the precedent and saying the guy who's waiting in another country, and there's some countries, Mexico is one, who at least fairly recently had to wait 10 or 14 years to get here legally. How under any circumstances, if we want people to respect their immigration laws in the future, can you say to somebody who's patiently waiting for American citizenship, sorry, you've got to keep waiting because somebody who snuck in ahead of you and broke the law is going to come in first? I mean, it's just like any other law. How can you put somebody who's breaking the law ahead of somebody who wants to obey the law? And I'll tell you, we're going to have no shortage of people who want to obey the law, who want to come in this country.
What about the 57,000 children who crossed the Mexican border over in the last?
No, that was just a desire to undermine immigration laws. I think they should be returned to their parents.
They should all be returned.
Right.
You know, immigration poses a lot of issues, but we know we actually need the workers. And our population growth is below ZPG, the zero population growth right now. So many industries, if you go to a dairy farm, you're going to find foreign workers doing the milking. Mm-hmm. If you're watching people harvest the crops, you're going to see foreign workers doing that. So what I think is we need an expanded guest worker program, and we have to make sure that the foreign workers are guaranteed the same protections, the same safety protections, the same minimum wage as other workers. You know, there might be a special wage for agricultural work. Mm-hmm. But the point is, it should be the same for non-citizens as it is for citizens, so that they don't undermine the wages in the areas where they work. But if there's work to be done that they're willing to do and that a domestic population is not willing to do, we're actually wise to have a program that legally allows people to come in and do that work.
The 10 to 12 million adults who are here illegally, should there be a path to citizenship? And if so, what should the steps be to citizenship?
Well, you know, I've heard some commentators recently almost talk about a parole type system where they are here illegally, but if they've been here and not broken any other laws other than the way they immigrated, then set a time period that if they continue to be good citizens, pay their taxes, don't break any laws, that would lead to a path to citizenship. I think that actually makes sense and probably is beneficial to our economy in the long term.
57,000 children who recently crossed the borders within the last 3 months. Should they be given a chance to stay in America or return to their countries of origins?
Here's where that gets tough. I think they're staying here while there's a determination if they're refugees or just immigrants, and that's the determination that has to be made before they're repatriated if they're not refugees.
Yes. I
do wonder, could we open facilities back in their home country? They were almost like U.S. embassies where they were considered, you know, U.S. territory, but within their own countries. And perhaps they could be housed there in a safe and controlled environment. But, you know, the discussion often fails to go to the root problem. The root problem is the amount of U.S. money flowing into some of these countries through the illegal drug trade. and how it's undermined peace and order in those countries. And oftentimes that's why these kids are taking these terrible risks to come here, is because staying in their own country is no longer feasible.
So you're not saying they should all be sent back to the countries of origin?
Well, it would be nice if we had facilities back in their own countries while they
Okay.
waited determination. I think a lot of them are going to be determined to be immigrants that will eventually be returned. So I suppose they could be housed in facilities, but I don't know that we have those facilities now.
Okay.
Under our current law, they have to stay here until that determination is made.